just beginning. I don't have much to give, but my simple offering through the life I live. He truly showed us what devotion means, then said to us, if ye love me. As I learn, as I grow, I know where I'll place my trust. He walked the path, he led the way, a perfect light in all I long to be. I'll give him my heart, I'll show him my faith, my hope in him means everything to me. As I learn, as I grow, I know where I'll place my trust. I will follow, I will follow with love.
What inspired us to do this? Well, President Russell M. Nelson has told our young men, young women that their purpose on the earth is to help gather Israel. And the church's theme for the youth this year was the Savior's admonition that, if you love me, keep my commandments. So about a year ago, we were counseling together as a stake presidency and with our stake youth leaders about youth conference and about how we could plan a conference where we could help the youth increase their love for their Heavenly Father and also have an experience gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. And we felt impressed to plan a conference that would involve our youth gathering in a unique and beautiful way with the young women and young men on the other side of the border in Tijuana, including in the Tijuana temple. And our hope was that by opening their hearts to the young women and young men in Tijuana, that our young women and young men in Laguna Niguel would feel the love that our Heavenly Father has for all of His children, regardless of nationality or race or anything else.
I remember being 14 years old, and our youth in the Mission Viejo stake went to Tijuana and just had such a memorable experience with them. It's something that, 30 years later still resonates with me and something I still think back on. And I wanted our youth to experience something similar.
I was really hoping that for our youth, that what they would walk away from after this conference is that they would have a greater love for all of Heavenly Father's children, that they are all united in one and that they all have a common thread in the sense that they all are followers of Jesus Christ.
We, and by that I mean Sister Sola, had planned the entire youth conference essentially to the minute. And we had identified a few experiences that we wanted to be really powerful and really impactful. Serving in the temple, building 4 homes for worthy families, and the closing devotional. And those experiences were all wonderful. But the most memorable and I think lasting experiences for the youth were those that we didn't plan and could not have scripted. It was the interactions one-on-one between the Laguna Niguel youth and the Tijuana youth. As we left on Saturday, there were lots of hugs and lots of tears. They were friends, and they had learned to love each other as they served each other and together in the temple and in the community in Tijuana.
Each day we had something really special planned for the youth, whether that was time in the orphanage, whether it was time in the temple, whether that was building a home and being able to hand the keys over to the actual recipient. But the thing that it just inspired me so much and exceeded my expectations was at night when we would have the dances with all the youth together and watching them interact and share cultures and watching our youth do Latin dancing and watching their youth do our our dancing, and it was just so amazing to see them totally dance together, interact together. That absolutely exceeded my expectation. Was so happy to see all that come together where our youth truly joined together as one youth.
I think one of the greatest blessings for me watching throughout this youth conference was seeing how the Lord directed this. He had a hand in everything from the moment we began planning. Any obstacle that came in our way, we seemed to find a way around it. And as I watched the conference come to life, and I really saw a manifestation of what President Nelson has challenged the youth to do to help them gather Israel. I think I saw many of the things I was hoping to see, but what surpassed my expectation is how many of them truly took the opportunity to not only reach out to the youth of Tijuana, but to reach out to the people and be able to recognize that Heavenly Father loves all of His children equally. I think when we open our hearts, those experiences are waiting for us, and all we need to do is have the faith to act upon them.
We challenged our youth at the outset of the conference to not just stick with their friends while we were in Tijuana, but to reach out, to step out of their comfort zones and to make new friends and to spend time connecting with and getting to know the Tijuana youth and learning to love them, even though there were language and cultural barriers. And our youth did a marvelous job of that. And as I sat in the testimony meeting, I was just overwhelmed with gratitude for the experience that these young men and young women had had, that they had taken on our challenge, and I was so proud of them.
So I just moved down to California about 8 months ago. I lived up in Washington for about 2 years. I moved up there with the love of my life at the time, and it was a dream come true. And I lost all of it. And I moved back down to Southern California, and that was like the longest drive of my life. I'm thinking to myself, the last thing I'm gonna go to is probably God for help. Like that was. And so now, fast forward to being invited to Mexico, and I'm like, okay, let's do it, let's do it. Sure, I'll go build some houses down in Mexico. And seeing God's love through these kids, seeing the power of faith through action. I've never seen that before, ever in my life. And it changed everything for me. Just the fact to know that it existed was like, what? And I'm just I'm fortunate to find that. And to be a part of this church is just like winning the lottery.
Talk this way.
Okay, cool.
Do I have anything in my teeth? Okay.
I'm gonna mess up so many times.
Oh, look at, no, we're looking at, okay. So guys, hey.
What's the first question?
I'll tell you.
The part I enjoyed the most was putting the roof on the house, because that was like the finishing touch, and then we were done. And it was really cool.
The part that I enjoyed the most was building the houses for 8 hours and all the hard work that we put into it, and seeing the enjoyment that came out of it from the family, which is awesome.
It was definitely building the houses and meeting the family, because it was just so rewarding to see how much they appreciated it, and it was just such a fun experience.
It was probably just being with our stake and getting to be with all the leaders and seeing the Tijuana youth, and honestly the whole thing was so wonderful.
The most amazing part of youth conference for me was getting to meet all the youth and really just experiencing another culture, especially being able to see their temple, because it was amazing to be able to feel the same spirit I do at home in Tijuana.
I was surprised by how well and how quickly our youth connected with the Tijuana youth.
The house was only built out of plywood, 2x4s, and there's no insulation.
I think the part that surprised me the most was just how humble the families were, and that they were able to be so grateful for something to me that sounded so simple. To me, it was just a house made out of plywood and painted to cover up the fact, when really to them it was a chance at a new life and an ability to live one more day.
Probably the temple, and how amazing and spiritual and just how beautiful it was.
I was surprised that we were so easily able to just work together and actually build 4 houses for people, because it seems like such a daunting task, but it's really so amazing that when we work together we were able to do something that feels like it would take forever in a single day.
An experience that I had was lunch during when we were building the houses, and the family had made us some awesome and delicious tacos. It was amazing how willing they were to give us food.
A really special experience for me was being able to perform in the talent show, and being able to see the Tijuana steak perform was super inspiring because of all the effort that they put in.
I was so surprised to hear how they fundraised for the costumes, and it just made it so special.
The experience that I'd like to describe would be when we got to the temple grounds, and it was really hard because the temple was gated and it wasn't as open as you would expect, or that's how I thought, because that's how I've seen every other temple. But in Mexico, in Tijuana, it was gated, but you hear about in the scriptures or in the songs, it stood out like a light on the hill. It was so divine and so godly. It was beautiful.
We are so incredibly grateful that we were able to meet you guys and create lasting connections with all of you. It was amazing and inspiring to meet you guys, and we hope that we'll be able to see you soon again.
How much fun they are to be around, and that they're just loved by all of us, and they are awesome people, and I wish I could go down there again and meet them.
That I love them, and it was awesome serving with them and getting to know them.
They're so welcoming and loving, and it just made the whole experience so much better to see how much they loved us even though we didn't know them.
I want them to know how much I love them and how grateful I am for them, for the experiences that they taught me, and for being so welcoming. Even though I didn't speak their language, they loved me for me, and I love them for them.
I am just so grateful to so many. I'm grateful to Inspired Steak youth leaders who planned and executed the conference. I'm thankful to dozens of other Steak and Ward youth leaders who took time out to come and put on this conference. I'm grateful to an absolutely wonderful set of youth leaders in Tijuana, without whom we could not have done this. And I'm grateful to just the best group of young women and young men on the planet for their examples and their faithfulness. And most of all, I'm grateful to a loving Heavenly Father who guided us all along the way, planning and executing this wonderful conference. And I know, coming home from that conference, that every single one of us felt closer to Him.
just beginning. I don't have much to give, but my simple offering through the life I live. He truly showed us what devotion means, then said to us, if ye love me. As I learn, as I grow, I know where I'll place my trust. He walked the path, he led the way, a perfect light in all I long to be.